Okay, well, we've got a great crowd tonight to get us going. We don't want to wait too much longer, but just know that tonight's webinar will be recorded. We want to again say hello and welcome to join us as a part of our Become a Bobcat webinar series. My name is Dustin Noji. I'm the Director of Admissions here at UC Merced, and you've joined, before you rule us out, a UC Merced Money Reality Check. Um, as a part of tonight's presentation, you'll get a chance to hear from our wonderful Director of Financial Aid, Heather Nardello. And again, if there's any information that you miss as a part of tonight's webinar, it will be posted on our admitted student website underneath the events page about 3 to 5 days from now. A couple things before we get started. Just some tips and tricks to navigate the webinar tonight. The first thing is to change the volume. You can use the audio setting in the lower left-hand corner. Click the button and a dialog box will appear on your screen and you can make any adjustments needed. Tonight we'll have a Q&A panel. Anytime during tonight's webinar, you'll have a chance to click the Q&A button and type in a question. Behind the scenes, we have financial aid officers, our admissions ambassadors, and other admissions staff available to help answer some of your questions. If for whatever reason we're not able to get to all of your questions tonight, know that we'll provide you with resources to connect with us after the webinar. And we highly, highly encourage you to join us for some of our upcoming admitted student events, in particular, our Bobcat Day, our biggest open house event of the year. So, with that said, at this time, I'd like to hand it over to our special expert speaker, our Director of Financial Aid and Scholarships, Heather Nardello.
Thanks, Dustin, and good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here and share all about how financial aid works at UC Merced and hopefully give you some really helpful and important information. So our goal tonight is really to help you understand how financial aid actually works at UC Merced, how to read and understand the financial aid offer that you've received if you've gotten one already. And most importantly, we want you to leave tonight understanding that UC Merced is an affordable option. By the end of the webinar, it's my goal that you will understand what the real cost is and how we'll help you pay for it. So tonight we're going to cover just a few topics. First, we're going to talk about understanding college costs and financial aid, and then we'll walk through how you can view your financial aid offer. I'll briefly touch on the requirement for having health insurance at UC Merced and what that process looks like. And then most exciting for me is we'll talk about our undergraduate affordability tool. All right, so when we talk about financial aid, it's really important to start with understanding costs. You may have seen in the information that you've received from us so far, or in information you've received from other schools, the terminology total cost of attendance. Really what that is every expense that we think that you might incur for a year to attend UC Merced. But the most important part about that is that's not what you actually have to pay UC Merced to attend school. So when we think about costs, in addition to the total cost, we break that down by two groups, really. And those costs are broken into what we refer to as direct costs. And the direct costs are expenses that you pay directly to UC Merced. They're for things like tuition, campus fees, your room in the dorms on campus, and your meal costs if you live on campus as well. We also have in the total cost of attendance costs that are referred to as indirect costs or other expenses that you might have to pay for a year, like books and supplies, transportation, personal expenses. These are real costs that you'll have, but they aren't billed by the university, and the amount varies by student, by how much you choose to spend, and kind of what choices that you make. Lastly, important term for you to understand is net cost, and we're going to talk about net cost throughout the presentation tonight. But net cost is the actual amount that you'll have to pay to UC Merced after we apply any grants and scholarships that you've been awarded to the direct cost. Grants and scholarships are considered free money, and so those are the things that will reduce those direct costs down and tell you what you would actually have to pay UC Merced. So you can see that total cost, which is what we kind of refer to as sticker price, is not what you actually have to pay UC Merced, and that most students actually pay less. It's important to understand the different types of financial aid that may have been included in your financial aid award offer. The first I've mentioned, which is grants and scholarships. That's free money. It's money that doesn't have to be repaid in any way. Second, we have work study. Work study allows students to work on campus and earn money through a part-time job while they're attending school. And then the last category is loans. Loans are borrowed funds that have to be repaid after graduation, but they can be an important and helpful tool for some students and some families. So I talked about the total cost of attendance, and I talked about the various components of the total cost of attendance. And part of that is calculating your cost. So how we do that is through a calculation where we take your direct costs and we apply any grants and scholarships that you've been awarded, and that leads us to your net cost. We provide that information on your award letter. So if you've received a notification from our office, you will be receiving this award letter in the mail in the next 2 weeks. Yay, exciting, more information coming your way. But ahead of that, I'll explain it so that it helps you understand when you do get that letter in the mail. So this letter provides on the front just a little bit of information about the kinds of, a summary of information about what kind of financial aid you're receiving and any important information. But on the back side of it is the details about the financial aid that you've been awarded. The top section will outline any grants and scholarships that you've been awarded, and then the self-help section below it breaks down any loan or work opportunities that you've been given. You can see that in this example, the student's been awarded a variety of grants and scholarships, our Bobcat grant, a federal Pell Grant, a couple of scholarships, and the Cal Grant. When we add all of those together, you can see that that totals $45,442 in gift aid. That's money that we will apply towards any direct costs that you have from UC Merced. So again, the tuition, fees, and room or meal costs if you're living on campus. Below that section is the self-help. Again, in this example, you can see that this student was awarded a federal direct student subsidized loan for $3,056. And that loan was awarded to help with any of the either direct or indirect costs that the student might have. And then in the bottom section of that award letter, we break down the total cost of attendance and then the calculation for that net cost. So I talked earlier about the total cost of attendance. It's important to know what that is and to understand that that's what we use to determine and award a student's eligibility for financial aid. Again, it includes all of the expenses that we think a student might have for a year to attend UC Merced. And then also on the award letter, you'll see that information that we use to determine which cost of attendance to use when awarding this student is available for you to see there. So for this student, we assumed that they were living on campus, which is what we do for all incoming first-year students. And then we also share the student aid index that was calculated by the FAFSA application. And then in the bottom section, we go through that calculation to estimate the net cost. And so we pull in the direct cost from the cost of attendance right there. So that would be the tuition and fees and the food and housing because the student is living on campus. And then we subtract the grant and scholarship that we awarded. And so you can see that this student actually has more grant and scholarship than the direct cost that we're estimating for them. And that means that this student in this example is actually going to be expecting a refund of about $5,200. And that refund can be used for any of those other expenses in that total cost of attendance. So those indirect expenses, things like personal expenses, transportation costs, books and supplies. And something that might be of surprise is that total grant and scholarship that was awarded is above and beyond the direct cost that we're estimating for the student living on campus next year. So it's really important that we look beyond and kind of break down all of this information and look beyond that total cost of attendance, because again, it can be a little bit shocking when we look at that, right? It's kind of like, maybe like buying a car, a little bit like the sticker price, but maybe that's not the actual price. And in this case, that's true. So we are aware that some of our families may actually have a cost that needs to be covered after grants and scholarships are applied. And that remaining balance can be covered through a number of things. family contributions, work from a part-time job, or a payment plan. We do have the deferred payment plan on campus, which allows families to split up the semester payment into 4 monthly payments rather than one larger payment. And again, we have work opportunities on campus, both work study and other student employment positions. And students can work in those positions to help earn money to pay towards typically towards their indirect costs. So those expenses that aren't billed by UC Merced. All right, so for families who are in a place where they need to borrow loans, we strongly encourage smart borrowing. Loans aren't a bad thing, and they often are a good option for students. But if you're planning on borrowing, just a few things to keep in mind is that we want you to minimize the debt that you'll have in while you're attending UC Merced. And so we want you to remember things like it's important to choose borrowing a subsidized federal student loan before an unsubsidized student loan. Because the subsidized loans don't accrue interest while you're in school. It's also important to understand that you don't have to accept the full amount of what we've offered you. You can borrow a partial amount or less than what we've awarded you. Basically, what we recommend is that you borrow what you need. And then think long term. Borrowing less makes sure that when you are done with your degree and you're graduating from UC Merced, that debt is minimized. Okay, so we're going to show just a brief video that walks you through how you can access your financial aid information in the Connect portal if you haven't done that yet, because there's a few steps for how you get there and how you see information.
To view and manage your financial aid offer, start by visiting connect.ucmerced.edu/student. Click on the My Merced icon. Log in using your NetID. Select the financial aid icon as shown on the screen. Click on Award Offer. This page provides an overview of your financial aid package. You will see several drop-down menus and help icons throughout the page. These tools can answer common questions and provide additional details about your awards. Review the Grants and Scholarships section. Grants and scholarships are considered gift aid. This is free money that does not need to be repaid. In the Loans section, you have the option to accept or decline your loan offers. Please remember that loans must be repaid to the federal government. If you would like to accept only part of a loan, you can customize the amount before submitting your decision. Please note that students cannot accept or decline loans until July 1st. In the Other Resources section, you can report any outside scholarships you have received. After reviewing your awards and making your selections, be sure to follow any additional prompts to confirm your choices. And welcome to UC Merced.
Thank you, Dustin. So some additional important information that students need to be aware of in the Connect portal. There is something called My Checklist. This is a checklist for lots of things across campus that you need to complete in order to be a student that enrolls in UC Merced this fall. And that checklist is dynamic, so it will change over the next few months as you journey towards moving into the dorms in August and registering for courses and being a student at UC Merced. Some of the things on the checklist may be related to financial aid, and so it's important that you are checking that checklist fairly regularly. I would suggest every week or two that you review items on your checklist. It also allows you, depending on the requirement or the thing that's on the checklist, it allows you to submit documents, verify information, complete forms, things like that. So in addition to the checklist, some students may be asked to complete additional tasks through our system that we use called Student Forms. The system allows students and families to securely upload documents that we might need for financial aid verification or other processes. It's secure and convenient, and so it's a great it's a great tool for us. If you have tasks that need to be completed in student forms, there will be a requirement on your My Checklist that's called Student Forms Account. So not all students need to have access or will be given access and need to submit items in student forms, but those that will have an item on their checklist. Okay, so I'm going to briefly just talk about the requirement that the University of California has for all students to have health insurance. So every student that enrolls at any University of California campus will have to provide proof of coverage of a similar type of insurance plan, or will need to purchase the UC Student Health Insurance Plan or UC SHIP. And so, again, you've heard me say this now, but a requirement will go on your checklist later this spring that will connect you with the health center and the information required for waiving out of the health insurance if that's something that you and your family choose to do. All students are automatically enrolled in UC SHIP. And so if you have a health insurance plan through your family or some other means, if you have Medi-Cal, you'll have to submit a waiver to opt out of paying for that cost of health insurance. And so the dates are on the slide here, but the application for the waiver will open in April and it will close at the end of July. And then the last thing I just wanted to talk about is I've given you a lot of information about costs and the different kinds of awards. And probably really what you want to understand is just the bottom line. Can you afford to attend UC Merced, and what does your net cost look like? So I'm excited to share that our undergraduate affordability tool will do just that. So this is an online tool that student prospective and our continuing students can use. You'll use the same UCM Net ID that you use to log in to look at your admissions decision, or you logged into the Connect portal to look at your financial aid awards. And when you log in, it will automatically add in estimated direct costs based off of the information that we're using to award your financial aid. So if on your award letter, if we told you that or in the Connect portal, we told you that we were expecting you to live on campus and that was the cost that we used, it's going to add in your on-campus costs in that top section. It will also filter in any of the grants and scholarships that you've been awarded in that middle section. And then at the bottom, it really gives you just sort of the bottom line. So if the number at the very bottom is green, that means that you're expecting a refund. And again, a refund can be used for your indirect costs or other educational expenses. And then red means that you might have a small balance that needs to be covered. And that's where the options I talked about just a little bit earlier come into play. Maybe it's borrowing a small loan, maybe it's using savings or family contribution, or maybe it's signing up for our deferred payment plan that allows you to make the payment over monthly installments. That's that is the end of my formal presentation. So I really just want to stress again that it is our goal that UC Merced education is an affordable option for all students. And we do that with our financial aid award packages. We are available in lots of ways. This QR code gets you to our contact us page where you can connect with us via phone, email. We have walk-in hours if you're close enough to campus and you're interested in meeting with someone to talk about your financial aid. But I really just hope that tonight helped clarify and answer some questions for you about financial aid and attending UC Merced.
Awesome. And thank you so much, Heather, for that information. We have kind of gone behind the scenes and taken a look at some of the questions that we've been receiving from the audience. And there's a couple themes that have been emerging. So I'm going to take this time, Heather, to ask you some questions, and hopefully you can provide a response to some of our folks attending tonight. So the first question for you is coming from our audience. It says, I didn't receive any money from FAFSA or grants due to my father's income. but he will be helping with but he will not be helping with my tuition. I'm a first generation college student. Would I be eligible for any grants, scholarships through the school?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that the process generally works is for students who are not considered independent under the FAFSA or the CATA application, um, that there is an assumption or expectation that parents will help. We obviously recognize that that's not always the case. So my recommendation would be that you reach out to us one of these ways and let's have a one-on-one conversation so that we can better understand your situation and we can recommend the right path forward. But it definitely doesn't mean that there aren't options.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. Okay, next question for you. Have all institutional scholarships been awarded already?
No, they haven't. That's a great question. So I would say the majority have been awarded, but we award on a rolling basis throughout the spring and summer. So if you are awarded a scholarship, we will add that into your existing award package and we will notify you that there's been a change to your financial aid award.
Very cool. And it looks like we've got a few veterans questions. So I'm going to ask one from our audience. I'm a parent. Dad is a California veteran. This was not factored into the financial aid award. What steps do we need to take to include it?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So it kind of depends on what benefits you're talking about. I'm going to talk generally about a couple of things. So we have a number of students who have parents that are veterans who qualify for the CalVet fee waiver, which is a benefit in California. If that's the benefit that you're referring to, you can request a copy, you can request an eligibility letter from your local veterans office, and then that actually gets submitted to our Office of the Registrar. Our veteran expert on campus is in the registrar's office, and uh, they will coordinate with other folks on campus, including us, and let us know that you are eligible for the waiver, and then we will incorporate that into the award package. Um, Typically, we'll do that throughout the spring and summer as students submit that information, and I would say it's never too early to send it to us. One thing I do want to mention in relation to tuition specifically is students can only receive one kind of tuition paying award. So if you're a student who is expecting a CalVet fee waiver, but you were also awarded a Cal grant, you won't be able to have both of those awards because both are specifically for paying tuition, and you only have to pay tuition once per year. So if you have a Cal grant and we get a CalVet fee waiver, then both things can't apply.
Some things, Heather. And we got a couple questions from the audience about just maybe sharing the presentation information. And like I mentioned before, we'll share this recording at admitted.ucmerced.edu /events. So we'll post the recording there. But a couple of folks were saying it was the screen was a little bit small to see the sample financial aid award. And would it be possible? Are there any PDFs or maybe any websites they can refer to look at an example of the award on maybe on the financial aid website?
Yeah, there is some information on the financial aid website, and it breaks it down as similarly to the way that I broke it down in the presentation tonight. I think the best part about it is you'll also be getting one in the mail. So all students receive a copy of a paper award letter so that the snippets that you saw in my presentation tonight were from an actual award letter that's coming in the mail in the next probably 2 to 3 weeks for students who've already been awarded aid. Um, we are literally printing and folding and stuffing those as we speak. So those will start going out as well. And again, reminder that all of the information that's highlighted on that award letter is available online through the Connect portal. So students, I have homework for you. If you have not logged in, you need to log in and look at your financial aid information. But B, or second, log in with your parent and share that information. As a parent of a college student, it's hard to sit on the sideline and not know all the information that's happening. So it's really helpful for your parents if you share all of that information.
Heather, did you want to talk maybe generally about what kind of opportunities there are for students who are coming and thinking about attending UC Merced internationally?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a couple of scholarships that are specific to non-resident students. So for international non-resident students, we have our Global Access program, which provides $25,000 per year for 4 years. Um, and if you are eligible, we have probably awarded it to you and sent you an email. Although we do award those on an ongoing basis throughout the spring and summer, and so it's possible it hasn't gone out yet. And then for our so for our we also have for some of our other non-California resident students who are coming from WUI states, we have our WUI scholarship, which to uh, goes to help offset the non-resident tuition costs. So it's $4,000 per year for 4 years if you are starting at UC Merced as a first year student, or for 2 years if you're starting as a transfer student. And
Oh,
I just realized, Dustin, that I made an error when I was talking about the Global Access Program, because it's not just for international students, it's for domestic non-residents that are not coming from a WUI state. So if you're coming from New York or Florida or somewhere else, then you may also be eligible for the Global Access Program.
oh, that's great information. And just so folks know too, WUI stands for the Western Undergraduate Exchange. It's a special program if you want to look that up. But UC Merced is the only UC campus that participates in that program. Like I said, we've got a great audience tonight and getting some pretty detailed questions. One of the questions that came up was related to the Native American Opportunity Plan. How can students be eligible for it? What might it look like on the financial aid? And when would students apply for that program?
Sure, that's also a good question. So the Native American Opportunity Plan is available to students who have tribal membership in a federally recognized tribe, and we do our best to identify students who share that information on their admissions application. And if we were able to identify you as potentially eligible, then we would have added an item to your checklist. Um, and it's the Native American Opportunity Plan requirement on your checklist. If that isn't on your checklist and you believe that you qualify for the benefit, you can just contact the financial aid office, use that QR code, and we'll add the requirement because we'll have you submit that proof of membership in a federally recognized tribe. And the benefit is that we guarantee that you'll have enough grant and scholarship or free money to cover the cost of tuition and fees. It's not, in a lot of cases, it's not called a Native American Opportunity Award. It might be covered, for example, we might be meeting that promise through the Cal Grant, because the Cal Grant in California pays for tuition and fees. It might have been awarded as the Bobcat Grant. So it's just a guarantee that we will cover that cost with some type of free money.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. And I think another question that's come up because it gets talked about, I think, sometimes is the middle class scholarship. Can you explain what that is? What if it's not on their award, and how are students determined eligible for that program?
Sure. So we've done our best at this point to estimate who we think is eligible based on information that was submitted on the FAFSA application. Um, at this point, those awards are estimates because the state has not finalized funding and eligibility for the 26-27 academic year. Once that information is finalized, which will be after the state budget is passed, which will be in June or July, then we will go back and we will update those awards to reflect final sort of eligibility and final award amounts. based off of what happens with the state budget process. The hard thing about that program is it is really reliant on annual funding, and there are regular changes to the program and to eligibility. If you think you're eligible and we haven't estimated an award for you, it's not showing up, didn't show up on your award letter when you get it in the mail, or it's not showing up in your portal, reach out to us and we will look into whether or not we think you'll be eligible. But we will do that final review typically in July. We'll do that review and update students based off of the state finalizing things.
Thanks, Heather. I know that one's always a difficult one to explain, so I appreciate you covering that. So a question about financial situations. We know that sometimes students' financial situation may be better or worse. So in this particular case, students mentioning their financial situation is different from 2 years ago, as reported by FAFSA. What do they do?
Sure, that's a good question. So we do have a process for students to let us know about changes that have occurred. And the way that we go about that process is we really want to have a conversation with you. So it's helpful if you email or you call. Again, if you're close to campus and you want to come and talk to us, that's great. You can come in person as well. But if you can contact us and let us know, what we will do is we will have an initial kind of conversation with you, identify what kind of appeal you need, we'll help you pursue, and then what kinds of documentation you would need to turn in to support that appeal so that we can make that update. At UC Merced, and this is different everywhere, but at UC Merced, we call that a Student Aid Index or SAI appeal. And that process is iterative and it can take a little while because what we want to do, what's important is recognize that every family and every situation is a little bit different. And so we don't have sort of a standard set of things we want you to turn in, because we don't want you to turn in things that we don't need and won't help us process that appeal for you. So really the process is that you have a conversation or interact with us in some way. We work with you to understand what kind of appeal we are going to consider, and then what kinds of documentation we'll need from you, and then we'll have you turn that documentation in. I will say that process can take anywhere from like 3 to 10 weeks, depending on the outcome of those conversations and the documentation.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. Appreciate you covering that one. And then next question for you. I haven't finalized my decision of attending, but I'm strongly considering attending. But other than this, are there any other scholarships I can apply to? It would greatly help me in my decision-making process.
Yeah. So there's no additional things that you need to do at UC Merced to be considered for scholarships. For incoming students, we use your admissions application and your financial aid application. And in many cases, we don't even use a financial aid application. A lot of our scholarships are awarded regardless of whether or not you've completed a FAFSA or a CATA. So we don't need you to do anything else at UC Merced. We're going to consider you for everything you're eligible for automatically. There are lots of outside scholarships. So there's some various resources. We have resources on our website, on the financialaid.ucmerced.edu website. We have a scholarship page that links you out to our scholarship tool, which is called Scholarship Universe. And in Scholarship Universe, there's a way that you can search for hundreds, if not thousands, of outside scholarship opportunities. There's also some scholarship engines on the web. FastWeb is one that's pretty reliable. Just be careful when you're applying for outside scholarships that you should never pay a company for a service. Really, you just want to make sure that it's free. And yeah, that's my best advice on scholarships. And through your high school, lots of high schools have a local scholarship application that connects you with scholarships from local service organizations or different entities like that.
Thanks, Heather. And this one too, and this might be maybe somebody who is either recently submitted or just submitted a CATA application, but they recently submitted their CATA application. When should they expect a financial aid package? About what's that processing time once a student submits their CATA or their FAFSA to receive their
Yeah,
financial aid
actually,
award?
I really appreciate that question because I was remiss in not mentioning that we actually haven't sent out, we haven't processed and sent out awards yet for our CATA applicants. We are processing those as we speak. So early next week, students who've already submitted a CATA, um, you know, before now, um, should start to get award notification information. If you've just submitted, it typically takes us, and this is true really for both FAFSA and CATA, it takes about 3 to 5 business days for the application to be processed and sent to us. And then it can take us, typically it doesn't, but it could take us up to 3 to 5 business days. So usually within like the maximum of 10 business days from when you submit an application, you should hear something from UC Merced.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather. So next question about work study, because sometimes students will get work study on their financial aid. Is work study paid directly to the school through a payroll deduction, or does the student pay the tuition directly?
Yeah, good question. So the way that work study works is just like any kind of student employment on campus. So it truly is a job. So if a student applies for and gets hired into a work study position or another student employment position on campus, they work and earn a paycheck just like any other job. And so that those earnings from the either work study or non-work study position will be paid to the student after they complete their pay periods, and they can use that then to help with their other expenses. It's part of why I didn't include work study as a way typically to pay for the direct costs because it's not something you're going to have up front. You're going to have it after you start working and earning a paycheck. So it's really ideal for those indirect costs, right? So paying for those personal expenses or transportation costs or other types of expenses.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different opportunities to work in various offices. We have our handshake platform that students can use to apply to jobs. And, for example, you can work in our office at admissions as a tour guide, or we have lots of different positions across the campus that you can get jobs and find those work study positions. So
Yeah,
appreciate you answering that question.
yeah,
You
and
can
I'll
work
just
for financial aid, right?
you can. We have work study positions. Admissions has work study positions on campus. Um, and I'll just add that once you've submitted your statement of intent to register and you've paid your deposit to come to UC Merced, your information will allow you to actually log in, create an account, log into Handshake, and you can start looking for and applying for jobs as soon as that's done.
Awesome. Okay. And so oftentimes in higher education, we have lots of acronyms, right? And one of the big important ones for financial aid is the SAI. What does that stand for and what does it mean? What is it, in the financial aid process?
Sure. So SAI is the Student Aid Index. It is a number that is calculated when the FAFSA or the CATA is processed. It's essentially the number that the either federal student aid or the state of California thinks is an amount that family can contribute towards their students' education. It is not a number that we actually hold you to. So we're not going to say that Dustin Noji's student aid index is $1,000, so he has to pay $1,000. That's not how it works. It's information we use to award a student's financial aid award package. So it's information that helps us know a little bit more about your family situation, but beyond that, it's not a number that's going to directly impact you.
All right, Heather. So we got another question from the audience, and it says, if my award letter has fully covered my costs, what are my next steps? Is there anything I need to do specifically for payment, or is everything handled by the financial aid department?
Yeah, so your first step is to say yes to UC Merced and SIR. And then the answer is that we will automatically um, coordinate paying your bill with student billing services. So we will automatically, come August, we will automatically apply any of the financial aid that you've accepted. So grants and scholarships automatically, and if you have loans that you're going to borrow, if you've accepted those, we will apply that to your bill, and we will pay that bill for you. And if you use the affordability tool and it says that your net cost is green, right, you're going to get a refund, then you'll get a refund of that any financial aid that's in excess of your bill.
Awesome.
Little plug there. I will say, if you're a student that's anticipating receiving a refund over the summer, I would recommend that you consider setting up direct deposit, which would be through our student billing services. And it allows that refund check to be directly deposited into a bank account rather than waiting for a paper check.
Thanks, Heather. And another question now, and this one's related to the SLR, or what we call the Statement of Legal Residence. In this case, a student was selected to submit a statement of legal residence, and they requested my school transcripts, which they just submitted. Might this be why they haven't received their financial aid award? And when should they expect to receive their financial aid award? This student has already submitted their CATA.
So CATA awards will start to go out next week. Um, Statement of legal residence process does impact your financial aid eligibility potentially. It wouldn't prevent us from awarding you aid, but it might change the kind of aid that you're eligible for. So California residents are eligible for different kinds of financial aid than non-California residents. And so completing the SLR as early as possible allows us to make any adjustments to reflect that you've been deemed a California resident, and vice versa. Also, if you know you're a non-resident but you've been assigned the statement of legal residence, it's important to complete that process so that we have that information and we can make updates or adjustments to financial aid award.
Awesome. And we're going to stick on the questions of non-residents because we've got a few in the chat that I want to make sure we get to. The first question is the Global Access program the $25,000 offered, is it offered yearly, or can it be renewed yearly? And if so, for how many years is that going to be available for students?
Yeah. So if you're a student that's been awarded the Global Access Program award, it is a 4-year award for first year admits and a 2-year award for transfer admits, or transfer students or first year students. So if and it's 25,000 per year. So for a first year student starting at UC Merced in fall of 26, as long as you maintain the eligibility requirements, which are in the communication that we send to you, then you'll get that for 4 years automatically.
Awesome.
Or
And then one last non-resident question, then we're going to go back to another question. When will we know if our daughter's been eligible for WUI? Her GPA is very close. It's at 3.4, and she's out of state. And then for those of you who don't know, the minimum GPA for WUI is at 3.4. We looked at the portal and couldn't find anything. She said she applied for WUI during the application process, but we can't really access the application anymore.
So, I mean, that's sort of a you and a me question.
Yep, I'll go into it too. But you want to talk about it? Well, first, I think generally, maybe I can just respond to this one. For the most part, students who were eligible for WUI were initially identified when they were admitted. If for some reason though you think that you're eligible for WUI, we would definitely have you contact the Students First Center and reach out to us, and we can look into that question for you. But WUI is going to be based off of your UC GPA that's calculated on your what we call your college preparatory courses, and in UC we call those your A through G classes that you completed during your sophomore and junior year. But again, if it's close and you think you still have a question about that, feel free to contact us and we can look into that for you.
Yep. And so downstream from that, then when admissions determines that a student is a WUI student or meets the eligibility for WUI, that triggers the financial aid office then to award the WUI scholarship.
All right. So next question for you. Um, let's say I have my FAFSA back already and I calculated everything with my direct cost worksheet, including the grants and scholarships, and the number I get back is negative. What does that mean for me?
Negative means you're getting a refund. And that refund can be used to help with other expenses. So if you're a student that we awarded based off of living on campus, it would be the other indirect costs. So that refund can be used for your books and supplies, right? Because you're going to have some costs for those. It could be used for personal expenses. And so personal expenses is things like shampoo, deodorant, toothpaste. I want to go to the movies with my friends, those kinds of things. And so that refund can be used for educationally related expenses that we're not billing you for, but that we know you have that cost.
Awesome. And I know we're kind of running towards the end of the hour here. So I'm going to have see if I can fit in maybe two more questions for you. So one of the questions that we're getting is about adjustments to housing. What happens if students choose to live off campus, but they put on their FAFSA they want to live on campus? How does that work out with their bill? How does that work with their financial aid award?
Yeah. So UC Merced doesn't automatically assume you're going to live on campus. If you want to live on campus, you'll need to complete an on-campus housing application and then sign a contract. Um, that deadline for first year students is in early May. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dustin, but I think it's May 3rd. And then for transfer students, it's June 3rd. Once we get past that point in time, so there's nothing students need to do if we package them or awarded them for financial aid based on living on campus, but they're going to live off campus. There's nothing that you need to do. We will automatically review that information. So based off of who actually signs a contract with housing, we will adjust cost of attendance and awards to reflect that change. Now, if you want to know what that impact is going to be and you don't want to wait until later, you are welcome to reach out to us. You can send us an email, you can call, and we will go ahead and make the adjustment now. But we will do an automatic review of that later this spring.
All right. And then Heather, I think this is going to be our last question because I know a lot of folks are wondering like, has all the financial aid been dispersed yet? And I think you mentioned this before, but you want to kind of just maybe wrap it up with what still might be coming for those folks that haven't received their financial aid yet, or maybe waiting if they submit the CATA?
Yeah, absolutely. So financial aid is not a like one and done thing for us. We will award financial aid throughout the entire academic year, depending on when we get applications, changes in information, changes in a student's situation. If you haven't completed or submitted a FAFSA or a CATA, it's not too late. Please do it. I would encourage you to complete the application and submit either one as early as possible. If maybe you've done it and you haven't heard from us, or you didn't originally add our school code to your application, it's really important to make sure that you've included UC Merced's school code on your FAFSA and CATA application so we get that information and we can award your financial aid. And then for our scholarships and all of our kind of special programs, we will award those on a rolling basis throughout the spring and summer. We will continue to identify eligible students and we will make those awards. And anytime that we award financial aid or we make a change to your financial aid, we will send you an email to let you know that we've done something. Typically, we won't tell you a lot of detail, but we'll tell you to go to the portal and you'll be able to see the information there that has been changed or updated, or if we've awarded you for the first time. And that, again, will happen all throughout the spring and summer.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Heather, for answering all these questions tonight. Any parting words of advice for our audience, students, parents, families that you think would be helpful to have them know before they leave tonight?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things. I think it's really important. Don't count out the financial aid application because you think you might not be eligible for something. I would encourage all students to complete a FAFSA or a CATA application. Um, I also just want to stress that I really believe um, fully that UC Merced is an affordable option for students. And use the tools that we've given you tonight, use the information, because I think when you sit down and you look at your personal situation, that's the story you're going to see too. And just encourage you to reach out. Don't hesitate to ask us questions or ask us for help. That's what we're here to do. We're here to support you and your students through this journey. So I just think you should pick us. That's my parting word.
Thank you, Heather. And there's no bias there at all. We actually
None.
really think UC Merced is a fantastic institution. So I just on behalf of the admissions team want to thank you for joining us tonight and answering those questions. And like Heather said, this isn't the end of the conversation. We want you to contact us. We knew everybody's situation is different. There may be questions that weren't answered tonight. We had at one point well over 500 folks online with lots and lots of questions. So if we didn't get to you, please use the link that you see there on the screen for the Students First Center. Also want to mention a couple of great opportunities to both get to know UC Merced, as well as maybe meet individually with our Students First Center, or if needed, our financial aid office. The first one that's coming up is our Experience UC Merced program. That program is an opportunity to come to our campus to actually get to see what it's like to be a student. You get to visit different classes, you get to follow a student around, have lunch in our dining facility, and really experience what it's like to be a Bobcat from the inside. So we definitely encourage you to do that. That program is taking place March the 30th through April the 10th. And again, it's going to be available April the 20th through April the 24th. And then lastly, our biggest open house event of the year, and one we would highly, highly encourage you to come to. And in fact, many students say it's the reason why they chose our campus, is Bobcat Day. Bobcat Day is taking place April the 18th from 8 to 2 p.m. It is our big, big, big open house of the year. We will have all of our student clubs, organizations, faculty. There will be lab tours, mock lectures, a number of different opportunities for you to explore our campus, get to know us before you decide to become a Bobcat this fall. Again, on behalf of the Office of Admissions, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. We encourage you to reach out to us and check out our other online events that are coming up during this month and also in April. You can do so by going to admitted.ucmerced.edu/events and sign up there. Again, thank you for joining us tonight, everyone. We hope you have a fabulous evening and that you think about becoming a UC Merced Bobcat. Take care, everybody.